Happy Monday and happy March, and welcome to episode 110. So we are in March. We are in a new month. We're in a new month. We are wrapping up on our Everyone Has a Love Story series. So today will be the last day in this series. I have enjoyed so much having guests on the show from I don't even remember when I started. I think it was the beginning of February. Yeah, I think I've had four guests, and it has been amazing. I am in the works of doing a couple other shows with some other people, and also doing maybe dibbing and dabbing and having a co-host every couple episodes. I've been really enjoying having people on the show, and so in March we'll definitely have quite a few more guests. I know for the last couple of episodes in March, there's already two people booked, and we're already in the process of interviewing, which has been really fun and cool for me. Also, too, it's been holding me accountable to not doing things last minute, which is amazing on my part because I do everything. And so it's been cool because, like, the first couple of episodes I did with guests, I hadn't had guests since 2022, maybe even 2021. I have to double check, but it had been a year to 1 to 2 years where I didn't have guests. And so, how I do my podcast is I record on StreamYard and then I download the audio and upload it to it used to be Anchor, now it's Podcasters for Spotify, and now they're like switching it up to Riverside. So yeah, I'm learning all that. And so I say all that. So now I can edit on StreamYard, which makes it a lot more easier. And then I can edit and do all that and then just download everything and distribute it to YouTube and Anchor and all that great stuff. Not Anchor, but Spotify. I say all that to say everything is changing. So the first couple of episodes, I really didn't know what I was doing when I had guests. I was like, we just gonna figure it out. And then by like the third and fourth guest, I was like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. And so it's been a learning process because I'm not a sound engineer, not a music engineer, I'm not a music producer. I don't work with these type of things, but I am having to do everything on my own currently in this season. And so being able to have these tips and apps and things that help me has been absolutely amazing. Also, too, it's just fun to have people on the show. You get different personalities, you get different perspectives, and you get different things like that. And so that's super fun, and I thoroughly have enjoyed that. So I am sad to see that everyone has a love story ending because I really love talking about love. I love talking about my book. We are still waiting on copies to be created. That has been a process. One day I will tell my story. Until now, thank you. Until then, I said until now. Tell it now, Lisa. Until then, I appreciate everybody who has done a pre-order and everybody who's been really patient with me. This this entrepreneur journey has not been easy. I am not gonna lie to y'all. I'm in a space where I'm ready to go back to a 9 to 5. I want the most boringest job. I want to work 9 to 5, and I want my insurance. I'm tired, and that's just me being open and vulnerable. But also too, I love podcasting, and so we will definitely talk about that today and jump into that topic because that is something that's been on my heart. I am tired. I'm tired. I'm really just upset with people, but it has caused a lot of fatigue on my soul. And so that is something that I just, come here. This is my safe space. It's not really a safe space because once it's on the internet, it's always on the internet. So, anyways, yeah. So today is episode 110. We are in March. We are in the third month of 2024. Today is Everyone Has an Agape and Self Love Story. So I'm super excited about that. So yeah, episode 110. Everyone has an agape and self love story, and so we will be talking about that. Wrapping up the Everyone Has a Love Story series, and I just want to send a special shout out to all of my guests that were here. It was super fun. So shout out to y'all. All right, y'all. That was a long intro. Let's go ahead and jump right into the icebreaker. Welcome to episode 110's topic of the day, which is Everyone Has an Agape and Self Love Story. Okay, so these are the last to chapters in the book that I talk about. And also to March is Women's Month, it's Social Work Month, and Doula Appreciation is either week or month. I have to double check that. And I believe agape and self-love all go with our love story. And I think like self-love has become a really big thing over the years. And I just want to talk about it a little bit today, but also too like agape love is something really, really big. And so I know that agape love is mostly seen as God's love. And while I am a believer in God, I started to switch my perspective on agape love. I believe it is loving people for who they are. God's love is taught to us to be unconditional, and we're taught that God's love is unfathomable. And I 1,000% believe that. I absolutely believe God loves us in a way that we do not understand. So we will never meet the qualifications to love the way God loves us. However, on a human aspect, which is where I like to take agape, and which is why I like to always bring it back, because the day I accepted that God will always be God and I will never be God was the day I was able to free myself. Because I have always been taught in church and just in Christian belief style. So that's predominantly my belief system, is like a non-denomination Christian, is that we're supposed to be like God. We should be the Jesus in people's. And sometimes in my journey, in my walk, I hear God say, but I ain't even asked you to do that. Like, I understand what they saying, but I ain't asked you to do that. You doing too much. Why you don't let me do my job? And so that has been a conviction of mine. So, on a human level, what if we start allowing ourselves to be human and seeing people for just that? Like I just said, I will never be God. I will never be God. Ever. And the day I learned God will be God regardless, and especially if you believe in the Bible and you believe in the Christian, it tells us that God is the same today, yesterday, tomorrow. So while I'm here on earth, I can do my job and love people for who they are. And I think that freed me so much from the pressure of perfectionism, because regardless if we want to talk about it or not, church preaches perfectionism. And this is not a biblical podcast. This is not a religious podcast. I provide a safe space for you to be who you are, because that was the calling God called me to do. I get a lot of heat from Christians that say that it's not in God's favor. I get a lot of heat from Christians that say I'm living a double life. I get a lot of heat from Christians from their judgment, but nobody has ever stopped to ask and been like, hey, is this the vision God gave you? Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you why I know it's the vision God gave me, because I had this vision when I was a child, before I even knew what a God was, I didn't grow up a spiritual or religious household. I didn't even grow up in a household where we went to church on the holidays, right? I didn't grow up in a household like that. Spirituality, religious was hardly ever talked about, and I didn't really learn about God until my college years. And my walk has always been unique. My walk has always been different, because I feel like I've always believed in God, even when I didn't know God, right? But also too, I look at where I'm at now, and a lot of where I'm at now is what I visioned back in the day, back when I was 10, 11, 12, back when I was 15, trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my life, right? And so a lot of what I created back then, it manifested into today. And so it's always been where God has wanted me to be. I know everybody says it, but I am one of God's favorites, because even in the worst, I've still been protected. And I don't know if God has favorites, but we say that too. Like, we're not supposed to have favorites. But especially like me, I work in education. There are a couple students that, y'all might be my favorite. But anyways, so I want to talk about this today because, like I said, March is Women's Month, Social Work Month, and Doula Appreciation. In February, we had Black History Month, and we had Love Month. And so there's a lot of combination and a lot of things that society takes for granted. Even when we think about Black History Month, like one of my jobs, we're basically teaching young people how to be activists. And I work with them monthly. And so like our last retreat, we did a tour of St. Louis, which was really, excuse me, excuse me, which was really cool. We went to the Griot Museum, which is a Black History museum with wax figures in St. Louis, and that was really, really dope. We also watched Whose Streets, which is a documentary about the Ferguson Uprising, and we talked a lot about the feminist movement and just Black history in St. Louis by itself, which was really, really cool. And then the retreat before that, we actually had a very deep conversation with our teenagers about what was going on in Israel and Palestine, and not even necessarily teaching them to take a side, but giving them the resources so that they can choose. So it's not so much like, oh, we team Palestine or we team Israel. It was, this is what's going on, these are the facts, this is what I do as a facilitator, as an adult, as an activist, this is what I do as a social worker. And being in the community can be so hard, because one, it really is a thankless job. Two, it takes a lot of money and people do not want to pay you. And three, there's always this moment of, what do we do now? Or the other thing is, another thing we got to fight about, another thing we got to advocate about, another thing we got to do this. And so in that comes a lot. Like there are people who are like, oh, you're so quiet about the Palestine versus Israel, but whole time I'm in the community taking groups of students to like places in St. Louis and teaching them about ways you can support a movement that you want to, like actually getting hands to the ground dirty with these type of things. Like I don't always have to post everything on social media. I don't always have to talk about it on the podcast. And sometimes it's like, sometimes like with the podcast, I'm pre-recording anyway. So like I can't predict what happens in life or whatever. And so I bring that up because in agape love, it takes a lot to even just show up. You really have to love people. And so that's why from the icebreaker to now, it really is hard, because I do show up, but I've also had to take a break from showing up with people. I've had to take a break from just showing up. And yeah, it's hard because I love being in community. I love being around community activity, and I just love being that person, but I'm tired. And the only thing that keeps me going is my love for humanity and my love for people, because I love to see people get the resources that they need. I love to see people get the life that they want, the life that they work for. I love seeing people succeed. I just love it. I love seeing people happy. I love driving down the street and seeing kids ride a bike, because we just don't see that no more. I love going to the park and kids using their imagination. I love going out to eat for happy hour and seeing groups of friends kikiing and ha and having a good time, because life is so dark, life is expensive, and it's hard. But that is my love for humanity. That's one reason why like I just can't go to clubs, I can't go to crowded places, I can barely go to concerts, because the energy there, I just soak it all up, and it's hard. Like I hate going to a restaurant and seeing someone sad because I'm sad. I'm like, oh, I just want to love you. Like, let me love you. But to me, like, that's agape love. That's what keeps me being a social worker. That's what keeps me showing up to things. I love going to the library and just using that free source just for a safe space, to rent a book, to go talk to somebody, for the resources that the public library offers. So I love doing all that. Also too, like it's Women's Month, and there's so much that goes into like just women's history and just things like that. Like it's just being a woman. Like we have so much against us, and yet like we prosper, you know? We think about our moms who sacrificed. We think about our moms who did this, that, and the other. And then doulas, I have a new fond appreciation and love for doulas because I have quite a few friends who are doulas. I have a doula at my facility, and just the love. Like, you have to love people in order to help bring a family new life into their life. Like, that is your baby. Like, you're not birthing that baby, but that's your baby. So like you have to love people. And so in all of this, you have to. But also too, the other side to this is that I'm talking a lot about loving others, loving others, loving others. But the other side is self-love. And so knowing when to take a break, knowing when you've done enough and it's okay to step back, knowing that you are not wrong for putting yourself first. That is the self-love journey. And one of the biggest things in my life right now is putting myself first, putting myself first in a space that is uncomfortable, saying no to love, like romantic love, saying no to friends, saying no to showing up for people who I constantly show up for and I just can't do it no more. All of that is really hard because it's just not like me, but also to like loving myself enough to say, hey, you have to put yourself first. One of the things I wrote in my notes, it says, while being a social worker, we have a code of ethics we follow. And one of the code of ethics is the right to self-determination. And so as a social worker, it is my job to make sure my client has and knows their right to their self-determination. This means that if I see a problem and I have a solution and I give it to my client does not have to take it. Woo! Okay. This is a hard one for people to grasp. A lot of the times we want to help people because of what we lack. Ooh, I was preaching when I was writing these notes. But people do not receive. People do not receive the way we receive, y'all. Self-determination is the right to do what you need to do for you, regardless of what anybody else says. So, like, for example, if you have a 65-year-old, let's do older. If you have an 89-year-old who they're pretty much at the end, they're pretty much at the end, right? And you're like, okay, well, we can get you here, we could do this, we could put you on this medicine, and they're like, no, I live my life, I'm fine. And the doctors, the family is like, no, but like we have solutions, and they're like, no, like we're good. Or you have a cancer patient and then this cancer patient is like, this is the third time it's came back. I've been fighting. We just gonna let nature do what nature does. And the family is devastated, like, you just gonna die? Are you just gonna unalive yourself? Like, you just gonna let yourself unalive? And that patient has right to self-determination. They're tired. For me, in Healing She Got Faith, my right to self-determination is I am so tired. I have given my energy, my love, my finances to an organization that I have just not received anything back. And in that, taking a step back from everybody who has said they were going to help me because I am devastated. And so my right to self-determination is, you know what, we just going to focus on these two things. We're going to let nature take its course. Whatever happens, happens. But I have to take a break. I have to be done. People want to help you, but you don't necessarily need the help that they're trying to give. Ooh. People always want to help you. People always want to give you suggestions. People always want to say what you should or shouldn't do. You ain't asked for that. When you did ask for help, nobody showed up. Now that you at the end, it is what it is, right? So it takes a lot to love yourself. It takes a lot to self-determine for yourself because society and everybody else will tell you what you should or shouldn't do. A lot of my struggle in 2023 was wanting more for people. And even in love, like, you can do this. I see the potential. And they preach it in society all the time. Don't fall in love with potential. That's friends, that's jobs, that's men, that's women, that's coaches, life coaches. I mean, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. Believe them. If that person keeps ghosting you, believe them. If that person says they gonna show up, let me tell y'all something. This man, this man. um, there's a man, and every time this man says something, it never comes through. It's like, oh, we gonna go see the lights. Oh, we gonna do this. We gonna go to breakfast. We gonna do this. I'm gonna get you this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna call you. Do y'all know every time this man say that, it does not happen? So it got to the point I was like, bro, you don't like me. It's cool. We good. We cordial. I see you when I see you. We good. We are good. And then it turned on to me. It was, well, you so busy. And like me having to tell him, you don't get to dictate if I'm busy or not. Just because I open up and tell you what's going on is not your permission to tell me that I'm too busy. You just don't want to plan. You just want to do things your way. And then the rebuttal from him was, you just want to be in control. I don't want to be in control. I'm respecting my boundaries. His rebuttal, boundaries are meant to be broken. So we just not a good match. This just will never work. Not as friends, not as co-workers. It just we just don't go well together. We don't mesh well. What Chris say, we go together real bad, and we don't. This ain't a real bad moment. This is a, we both just need to get out real bad. Like I had a realization in 2023 that, like, just because I think people should leave a relationship or a job does not mean this is the right thing to do for them. My friends may not feel the same way, and it's their life, and they may not be ready to move. And I think that's another thing. Like, we might see a train wreck happening, but also too, if the person doesn't see it, like, that's not up for us to dictate. What I will say though, our responsibility is to be honest with our friends and let them know, like, hey, I do not have the capacity to deal with this. Hey, I can only listen to this. Hey, I only have 15 minutes to talk about this. I have been very upfront with my friends. Like, I cannot talk on the phone. I do not have the time to talk on the phone. I do not have the capacity. I've told my financial advisor that people will not respect it. So I have to stand I have to stand my ground and say, no, I am not answering the phone. I just told you I didn't have the capacity. Well, I don't text. Well, that's your problem. You don't want to get paid? Then don't. I'm not fucking picking up the phone to call you. I'm just going to withdraw my money. How about that? Because I'm done. I'm done always respecting other people and giving my way to them. I am done with that, y'all. Y'all can't respect me, then fuck it. We just don't respect each other. That's cool. It don't got to be beef. It don't got to be nothing, but communication stops. I've told multiple people that, stop fucking calling me. Text me, email me, something. You can send me a voice message. I'm giving you options, but I don't have time to sit on the phone and talk to you. I do not. And that's hard for people. And also too for me, because before I didn't have boundaries, people didn't know, so when I started setting my boundaries, and they sounded ridiculous to people because people were just used to me dropping everything I was doing for them. And now that I'm standing in there, because I have the right to self-determination, I have the right to self-love, and it's hard. It has caused a lot of friction in my life. And to be honest, like, I'm just quite lonely. I'm quite tired. I'm so fatigued, y'all. Like, so fatigued. But also too, like another boundary is, like, I like to be in bed by 8:30, and I like to wake up like early in the morning. Not the best at it, because I've never really been an early morning person, but also too, at the same time, like, regardless of that part, I want to be in bed by 8:30. People are like, that's so early. You a grandma, and let me be a grandma. Why does me going to bed at 8:30 affect you so bad? Why does that bother you so bad? Because you don't have access to me? I don't want to drink. Like, I went to a happy hour Like if I go to a happy hour and I only get the appetizers, like if I don't want to drink, I want to drink. Or I be around like weed heads. And no, not so much anymore, but I used to, and I'd be like, I don't want to smoke, but like y'all feel free to smoke. And they'd be like, oh, that's boring. What do we have to do if you're not smoking or drinking? Cool, we ain't gotta be friends then. If you can only be around me unsober, then we don't gotta be friends. If it bothers you that much that I'm sober, then we don't gotta be friends. Cool. It is what it is. Cause I'm tired. I'm tired of meeting people where they're at, but nobody wants to meet me where I'm at. I'm tired. Y'all are witnessing a person who is fatigued. Y'all are witnessing a person who loves this world and who has given and given. And I'm stepping back. I followed all the advice and it led me nowhere. So now I gotta follow my own advice. Oh yeah, this episode getting deep. Okay. What I put in these notes? Let me look at that. Ooh, okay. Let me read this note. It say being a social worker, there's a lot of giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. One, in order to do this job, we must have agape love because this is truly a thankless job. And it is. And also too, I hired a career coach this year, and one of the reasons I hired a career coach because I want to transition out of out of social work. Let's talk about it. I have a social work background. I got the degrees. I got the experience. I've never been hired as a social worker, and so like when people I have an example. Somebody I was applying for an executive director position, and somebody was like, "Well, I just asked AI." And it says social work and an executive director are not compatible, are not something. And I was like, but I've never been a social worker. Like I have like a background in social worker, but I've never actually been hired. Like nobody has ever said, Lisa, you are such and such social worker. No, it's always been like I've been hired because of my social work experience, but I've never actually been hired as a social worker. And when I was applying for an executive position, I only applied to a job that I have literally done everything that they've asked. And I was like, and this is somebody who knows me. So I'm like, but you can see that I've done it. And it's stuff like that, like in this social work industry, like people take social workers as a joke. People don't respect social workers. Like I've been to schools and they just walk into the social worker's office and just grab anything like that. Like the social worker don't have confidential files and cases in their office. Like, why are you just walking in there? Like, I don't care that you the administrative assistant of the office. Like, do not walk in this office. Like, this is not your office. Please stop. People take us for a joke. Like a lot of people feel like social workers are just people who take babies away or they're just therapists. I'm neither. Also, too, in the state of Missouri, it is not legal for social workers to take a baby away. Sorry to bust your freaking bubbles. Um, I think it's like a doctor, an investigator, and a police officer are the only three people that can take babies away from the household. And investigators, I'm pretty sure all you have to do is work for the state to become an investigator. So there's that. You're welcome. If that's wrong, correct me. But last I checked, that was what it was. I mean, policies and things change all the time. But last time I checked, and when I had got my degrees, that is what happened. Um, so anyways, and then also like therapists, I don't even like one-on-one work. Like even I hate one-on-one work. I would rather do group work. Like I'm in a position where I want a team. I'm tired of doing solo work. One, running my business for the last 5 years, I've been solo, so I'm ready to have a team. But also too, like I've worked a lot of jobs where it's very solo, and I get very miserable in solo work because there's not a team and everything falls onto you. I'm also a single person, and so like everything in my life is just solo, and I'm just ready to have a team. I'm ready to have a partner. I'm ready to have something where I'm not the only dependable person in the situation. And so I'm ready to move forward. But again, with social workers, they're like, oh, you do this, you do that. And no, I don't do any of that. That's called micro social work. And I'm a very meso and macro, which is group and community. And I've always been that way. And so being a social worker is a very thankless job. And you really have to love people to show up. But also too, with that being said, Pay us. Stop paying us $13 to $14 an hour. If y'all don't start paying us $30 and up, we work very, very hard. You want change in your organization, hire a social worker. We are the most creative people you will ever meet. We are the most creative people you will ever meet. Start paying us. Start telling us that our job isn't too hard. If it wasn't too hard, you do it. You do it and find me a man so I could be a stay-at-home mom. Oh, you don't want to do that? Oh, okay. So shut up. Stop talking about something you do not know what you're talking about. Like, I'm getting tired of this social work industry. I'm getting tired of people telling social workers what social workers do. And y'all aren't in the industry. Y'all don't know what we do. Social work is so broad. We can literally work side by side with lawyers, police officers, artists, financial advisors. Do y'all know that there's a such thing as a financial advisor social worker? I bet y'all didn't know that. Where we teach you finances, but also too we teach you the relationship of where your financial status comes from. Do you know we studied that? We studied why the poor stay poor and the rich get rich. We teach people why their relationship with financial stability is hard or is good because we study human behavior. Do y'all know that banks have hired social workers to create environments for the not only the community but the staffs? Come on, y'all. We've done a lot. Start paying us. Stop trying to pay us $30,000, $40,000, but y'all want us to have these MSWs and these PhDs and all. Stop. It's getting tiring. If y'all don't like social work, get rid of the industry. But when y'all do that, y'all gonna realize we do a lot. Just like y'all see the shortage and education, y'all play too much. Society plays too much. You play too much. The people who's actually out here serving y'all dusty ass families. We out here serving y'all kids, y'all families, y'all communities, and y'all hate us. But y'all won't do it. Y'all just want to charge everything. Life is expensive. Life is hard. And to have somebody who genuinely loves you for who you are and they don't care about your little stinky ass attitude, that's a lot. Stop treating us like we're bad. Please. Please. Even though we are helping people, we are the ones that are getting cursed out. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I get cursed out so much. It don't even bother me no more. But I do be crying still. We get the burnt ends of everything. We very rarely get acknowledgement for anything other than what is wrong. We have to fight in some of the most toughest situations, and we are still expected to show up with a smile on our face. And if we don't, we're deemed not a people person. Oh my gosh, that's such a big one. People in the service industry, social workers will bust they asses off to make sure a client, an organization, a school is so good. And the minute that they do something wrong, they're deemed the person who is wrong. They are deemed the person who doesn't want to be here. They are deemed. There were times where I had nothing to eat. Okay. I didn't have milk for my cereal. I didn't have peanut butter for my jelly. I didn't have bread. Okay. And I still had to show up to work with a smile. There were times where I'm talking to people and my mouth is so dry because I can't afford a water bottle. And in those moments, I'm deemed, well, you know what type of job you did. You shouldn't have came to work. You're right. I shouldn't have came to work. You're absolutely right. I shouldn't have. I should have set that boundary and not came to work. We are the people that constantly show up, and we do. I have done director duties and I have never been deemed a director. I have sat in presentations where I remember, I can tell you when my director of my position came in and was like, "Oh, can you give me XYZ?" Da, da, da. And I've sat in a presentation where he gave the presentation and it was everything I gave him, and he took the credit for it. He took the credit for it. He got recognition. He got a raise. And when I went to go ask for a raise, I was told there wasn't any money. We have got to stop settling in our careers, and we have got to stop treating people less than. We are showing up because we have this unconditional love for society. But also too, we have to love ourselves enough to know that you have to walk away at some point. I'm in a position right now where I think I would rather work at a freaking coffee shop than do some of the stuff that I'm doing. And if that is the place that you are in right now and you have to walk away, even if it's for a year or a couple months or just to get back on your feet, then do that. There is no reason why I don't have any insurance right now. And all I do is work with people and their problems. There is no reason for that. Why can I go to a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts or a Scooters and work for the same hourly rate but get insurance? That's crazy. And so in self-love, you might have to make that decision. Hey, having insurance is way more important right now than helping these kids. And so sometimes we just have to make that decision. And sometimes we just have to realize burnout is real. And we see an increase in burnout. And like I have a double whammy because I'm hired with my social work background, but I also work in education. So I have a double whammy because the education system is a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But what I see on a day-to-day basis is tired people. People are extremely tired. People are done. People are checked out. People can no longer do their jobs. And that's a scary place to be. It's a very, very scary place to be. It's scary as an outsider. It's scary as a person on the inside, and it's scary as a person who just genuinely loves people. Like the fact that I feel like I could go work at a White Castle and be 10 times better than where I'm at right now, it just says a lot about where our values in society are. And not to say, let me tell you, I used to work at White Castle. That is one of the best companies you could ever work for. I bring that up because I think at some points in my life, I would much rather give you a number one than help you figure out what resources better help you. Ooh, and that's deep. Ooh, that's deep. That's deep, y'all. Okay. So I wrote, but as a social worker, I keep going back because I know the world needs more resources and safe spaces. That is agape love to me. Also, I know that self-care and self-love is preached in social work, but is not thought of to the actual social worker. Most of us cannot practice what we preach because the industry doesn't allow us to. This is very real. Like a lot of times, if you do get a salary job as a social worker, they'll be like, oh, you got a 40-hour work week, but really you're working like 80 to 90 hours and you will not get paid for that. You might get a piece of party, you might get a couple gift cards, gas cards, maybe a cup of coffee, but maybe a coffee mug, which those things can be appreciated, but it's not enough. It's not enough. We really need to be paid more. um I myself, I honestly have to bring in at least $7,000 a month to be able to afford my life. And half the times in social work, I have probably only been paid $2,000 a month. That is a huge gap. And a lot of times there just isn't value in it. And so when I hired my career coach, a lot of the people that my career coach works with are people in that, like, we need to get paid more, we need to transition, we need to be in more sustainable careers, we need to be in more sustainable jobs, we need to find these jobs that are willing to pay us. Like, I can no longer do $21 an hour. Like, it just doesn't work. And if I am going to do that, I'm definitely going to leave the industry and go work at a coffee shop and do that, or like go work at something that has nothing to do with social work, even if it's just for like the benefits and the hourly wage. Because it's hard. It's really, really hard to be able to do that. So yeah. So, anyways, I think like the moral of this story is that agape love is really your love for people. And I think if you're anybody like me, you have such a love for people. And I think like going through this season that I'm going through is really hard because I have to say no to everybody else and say yes to me. And putting myself first is probably the most uncomfortable thing I've done thus far because I'm so used to just being there for everybody else. But I'm burnt out right now. I'm fatigued. I'm tired. I'm hurt. And I think in 2023, I talked a lot about heartbreaks, and not just romantic heartbreaks, but like just heartbreaks for my business, for my books, from partners, from friends, business partners, because I haven't had a partner since 1991. I have to stop being so petty. Ooh. Okay, anyways. Um, but like just dealing with that, and in 2024, like before I even entered into 2024, like mentally entered, I took January and even February to really process everything that I have been feeling, and it put me in this position of where I have to say no to a lot of things, and I have to move forward in a lot of things, and I'm going to have to do it by myself, and that is extremely hard. It's extremely hard. It's not fair, but here we are, and I have to do that. That is self-love. That is knowing you have agape love and knowing that you have to take care. And the beautiful thing about life is duality exists. You can love society, but you can also love yourself. You can pour and pour into community, but you can also pour into yourself. I need everybody to hear this. You are doing enough. You are doing everything you need to do. I need to hear that. Stop rushing life. Stop rushing. If something does not work, it just doesn't work. It's okay to leave. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to know that this isn't working for you. Not even to say you deserve better. What it is saying is like it's just not working. And I think in business I've learned that two people can have the same values or whatever, and sometimes it just does not work out. And it's okay to say like this just is not what I thought it was. It's not working. It's just not working. And it's okay to be in that place. It is okay to be in that place. So um, yeah, so this is the last episode in the Everyone Has a Love Story series. This is episode 110. Oh, excuse me. This is episode 110, and I really, really enjoyed this episode. Moving forward, we will be talking about Social Work Month and Women's Month resources and social work. I'm going to bring in mental health resources and just talk to people. And yeah, we gonna enjoy it because I really enjoyed having guests on the show. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I love you, but love you the way you love the world.